Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
What's
how's
up?
it going?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Nice. I'm doing okay. Still kind of getting over my booster shot side effects, but
Man, yeah, my booster was brutal.
yeah, and I'm feeling like, well, I'm kind of better today, and then I'm just going through the whole day like, it's not better. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I feel this bad normally.
Yeah.
But, okay, so maybe if you could give a quick introduction for the stream, just say, like, where you're from, how long you've been playing, what are your goals for the game, something like that.
Sure. I'm from well, I'm based in Colorado now, but I started playing in New York. I've been playing for maybe 4 years now. And my first goal was kind of beating everyone in my office. I was in a big office in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Um Now I'm focused on getting PR'd in Colorado. And yeah, that's kind of my immediate goal.
Okay.
And yeah, I want to work on the Fox matchup because it's so common, and Sheik Fox is very challenging.
Yeah, I've heard that before. No, it's that matchup is kind of brutal. So we can go over these vods you sent and see what we can come up with.
Sure.
But
Also, did we play
what do you mean?
like in unranked? I feel like I ran into your
I
Falco.
think so. I mean, I
Cool.
think I've played you before on unranked. Like the tag when you messaged me about lessons, I was like, oh, that looks like a familiar tag.
Cool.
So we probably did play, but I just don't really remember.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
Normally, when I'm on unranked, I'm like thinking about other stuff. So
Yeah.
okay, let me screen share you. All right, and what do you? Oh, one sec. Okay, so what do you feel like is happening in this matchup? Like, what do you feel like the
Yeah, yeah.
issue is, or like how is it going?
Okay, so for a long time, I think my issue was I did not have any punish really off grab. Like I would constantly get reversed. I think I'm a bit better at that now. From this, so I will say these two games, I was feeling a bit of like tournament nerves, and
A bit of
I just
tournament
like,
nerves. Okay.
yeah, I just wasn't contesting. I wasn't like attempting to edge guard in situation like I was just standing and throwing a needle in situations where I should be like going out and bearing. Um, but I guess the main way this matchup feels to me is like even if I'm doing everything right, if I like slip up my punish just slightly, then Fox can get like a monster reversal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like I don't know if there's more things I could be doing as far as like DIing out of some combos, but yeah, I feel like I constantly just get exploded like off a shine or any kind of opening. Whereas unless I'm hitting like gimps or edge guards, or like occasionally getting really strong tech chases, the matchup feels really, really difficult against
Mm-hmm.
like a similar skilled fox.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's a pretty also like a pretty common complaint.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a look and see what happens here. Hmm. Whoa. Wait, that like was that my computer? Or? That was so weird. Like the Slippy VOD just like slowed down. That was strange. I've never seen that. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was a good edge guard. There's definitely some things we can talk about in that stock, but I kind of want to see
Hmm.
more first. But the ending was definitely good. Okay.
This was sad.
So, hmm. All right, let me think. Where should I start? So the first thing I notice is there's some issues with your goals. That
Okay.
it seems like you're aware of your win conditions, but you're not like actively working towards those win conditions as like directly as you could be.
Okay.
So
Makes
that's
sense.
one of them, and then sort of tying into that is like some move choice stuff. So
Hmm.
like when you're at zero and or like let's say Fox is at zero, like what are you thinking in terms of like move choices?
Yeah, so well-spaced aerials, like strong bear is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like fair is fine at the correct spacing. And I think you can get away with a properly spaced F tilt. Um, and then like raw
I
grabs.
don't know about that.
You don't know?
Not if I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe if you catch them out of the air, but
Yeah.
definitely not on the ground. Because the
Okay.
idea is they're basically going to be holding down a lot at low
Sure, sure.
percent.
Yeah.
Um, all right, yeah, wait, continue what you were saying.
Yeah. And then raw grabs. So basically just trying to get damage past like crouch cancel percent.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they're past crouch cancel percent, then you can start going for like F tilt dash attacks,
Mm-hmm.
meteor stuff that will actually lead to a kill setup.
Okay. So one thing you did miss in there was needles. I'm
Oh
sure
yeah,
you
yeah.
know about
For
needles, but
building
you just
damage.
didn't mention them. It's not a big deal.
Right, right.
But yeah, so I think so. If you think of your win conditions, they're kind of like okay. So I either most commonly I'm either gonna get a bunch of damage on Fox, like 80 damage, and then like back air, and then he literally just can't recover, or I'm
Hmm.
going to get some form of like edge guard kill.
Right.
And so you really want to prioritize the edgeguard kill, and that needs to kind of be like at the forefront of your mind all the time.
Hmm.
Because and also like not getting reversaled out of your combos, obviously. But
Right,
just
right.
the idea that like you're not trying to kill Fox with percent, you're trying to kill Fox with positioning.
Okay.
And so it's important to keep that in mind all the time because there weren't really any points so far in the match that I noticed you even really like threatening even like the idea that you might like back throw him off and go for a gimp
Right.
or like
Right.
go for something early. And so if like even if you aren't going for those things, you sort of need to like move as if it's like the thing you really want because
Got
it
it.
will because then it changes Fox's risk reward of like okay, I'm gonna go in and Sheik's gonna like try to get some damage, I guess, but I can probably CC Shine Mash that and then I'll get a big
Mm.
combo. Versus like, okay, so even though I'm at zero, she's clearly like kind of fiending for like the early cheese kill. So I
Hmm.
really gotta watch out. And then, maybe you down throw them at zero and they DI towards the corner, and then you get like an early forward throw gimp or whatever. Like,
Right.
just
Right.
sort of keeping that in mind is really useful because it sort of removes all of Sheik's weaknesses in terms of like the punish game if you can just get him off stage and kill him. And most of the time, if he's at like 50, you're gonna basically gimp him a very similar way that you would if he's at like 15.
Right.
Not exactly the same, but pretty similar. So keeping the low percent like idea in your head that like it would be really nice to get this is just super important against like Spaceys and Fox in general as Sheik. So
So,
like
how do
yeah,
you feel about the trade-off between like stage control, or I guess just being like in the center of the stage, versus in order to gimp? I guess most of the time I'm near the edge. Like I know Mewtwo King just kind of used to just stick out near the edge, but
mm-hmm.
I feel like against there are plenty of like aggressive foxes who can pressure in the corner, and then you just get like the risk reward seems kind of skewed in Fox's favor, where like yeah I might gimp them, but also there's a good chance that I get shined off stage, and then like it's an edge guard situation for them where maybe I get shine spiked.
Mm-hmm. Um well, so there are always advantages to like good state like center stage positioning and stuff. Like that's obviously like strong. And there are certain, moves that So I'm not telling you that basically you need to be in a position to do the low percent kill all the time, but it
Mhm.
needs to be on your mind that if you're in a position where you might be able to get one, or if you're in a position that could lead into, another hit or whatever that'll get you the edge guard, to sort of like look for that.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that makes sense. Makes
yeah,
sense.
and so we'll get into it a little bit more. It's also a little more complicated than that, because like there's some things in the corner where, like, let's say Fox like nairs your shield in the corner,
Hmm.
right? Now, normally, if Fox nairs your shield and you're on stage in the center stage, or center, or just anywhere, you're kind of in a pretty bad spot there,
Hmm.
because if you try to nair to beat like the shine grab or whatever, most of the time, or like the late aerial, most of the time he'll just get his shine after the nair, and then he'll combo you to death, right?
Right. Right.
But the
Right.
nice thing about being close to the edge is if you try to jump right after his nair, he'll shine you and you'll just grab edge out of your
Right.
jump squat. So there are some advantages in the corner, and
Hmm.
I know that Plup uses that really well. Like, he'll use the fact that Fox kind of struggles to do that, and you can also do things like let's say fair grab the back of Fox's shield. Like,
Okay.
if maybe not even like the back, just like there's a lot of situations where, like, say on the back of Fox's shield, when you're in the corner, his only option is shine out of shield, right? And so you
Hmm.
can be going for fair grab, but if he shines you out of shield, you'll just grab edge, and you don't really have any consequences.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
So
I
it's not.
remember.
Yeah, go for it.
So I've taken lessons from Spark, and he talked about um how Plup would like rinse repeat like ledge dash grab, and then he'd get
Yeah.
shined, and then he'd just do it again.
Yeah,
Um,
no, he was telling
okay.
me about that too, and I thought it was funny because it's kind of like a cheeky implementation of this, of like, well, if you really can't do anything, then I'm just gonna do it over and over again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's good to understand sort of like those types of advantages in the corner, and also, Fox can wave shine, grab, up throw, up air, back air you from anywhere on the stage. So being in the corner and being afraid of shine spikes isn't
Right.
necessarily like, it doesn't really. It's not like that's a bigger risk to you than the
Right.
on-stage
That's true.
combo, really.
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I'm not saying stick to the corner all the time, but that it's like it's not like this horrible position for you because you have the stuff to throw them off stage. So one thing here is that I think I was noticing that you're going for these like low percent fares,
Yep.
and just in general, like, yeah, if you space it super perfectly, you can probably get it, but I would really much prefer you to be doing a lot more back air stuff
Right.
at low percent, because if you catch him at max range, even if he like CCs it, it's like almost an impossible punish most of the time.
Hmm.
So like, I think like I would rather see you sort of like using these needles. So like something that you could do maybe to start out is do something like, because you kind of just charge needles on the platform until you're in a bad spot.
I think I was trying to just shield drop fair on the
Mm-hmm.
approach, but instead I did like a dash forward, dash back shield drop.
Mm. Like I didn't see the shield drop. You're just saying right here you messed up.
Yeah, I mean I got shined in the middle of the dash, but I think that's what I was
Okay.
trying to do. I think I was trying to bear probably,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
just timing wise.
Yeah, it's more this fair that I'm kind of worried about too.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he's just like, this is very clearly just kind of opening you up in a way that like it doesn't really need to happen this way.
Right, that makes sense.
There was nothing he was doing that was kind of forcing you into it. So I guess it's like this opening just feels really chaotic, where he really knows what he's doing, where he's like, I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna pressure on the platform, and it
Hmm.
feels like you're kind of just like putting out the moves are decent without really thinking too hard about the position, because like you go for like this back air and he's kind of like already through you and stuff
Yeah, I
like that.
actually wonder when I see this because it seems pretty obvious that I'm not reacting, that I'm like just proactively putting out these hitboxes that look really bad
Mm-hmm.
because the fox is just not where I think they are.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's something I talked to Spark about, and I'm not really sure how to work on it aside from just like trying to be more intentional about reaction.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things you can do is so the idea is like of reaction points of
Mm-hmm.
like you have to train yourself to react to use a move in the positions where that move is like the most beneficial to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily in a position where like, oh, this move will definitely hit. Like it's not like you can react to Fox dash dancing and be like, oh, I'm gonna bear right here and then it'll frame perfectly hit his dash dance, you know? Stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Right.
You're not really gonna get that. But you can avoid doing the back air unless it's in a position where it has like pretty predictable results no matter what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of trying to like mitigate chaos. So like rather than, kind of going for I didn't go back far enough. Rather than kind of, having rather than having sort of like these chaotic situations play out, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing preventing you from, going up here and then coming down and kind of like reestablishing yourself.
Right.
So like a
Okay.
lot of this is kind of just like this was the back air I specifically wanted to talk about where like you kind of jump up and he's already dashing forward.
Right.
So this is
Right.
definitely not a spot where you really want the back air.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, he could dash back and you could kind of be right and get the hit. But
Yep.
it's not one of the situations like this isn't like if I showed you this, out of the game, like we're in analysis and I showed you
Yeah.
this and I was like, hey, do you want a back air here? You'd be like,
Yeah,
no, like are
obviously
you an
not.
idiot? Like of course I don't
Yeah.
want a back air there. And I'm
Right.
like, oh. So it's like if it's in a position where you wouldn't like want a back air when you're not in the game,
Mm-hmm.
try not to like let the fox pick where you're gonna fight. Like if the fox really wants to fight here, and if you're just like, all right, fine, you got me, I'll throw out a move, but you can disengage here and say like, you know what, I would rather fight strictly in a position that, once I'm back here to the ground and now we're even, and then I short hop facing backwards. Now, feel free to do whatever because now I'm in a position where like, even if you beat me, it was like a significantly harder read for you to like get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Is this like making enough sense that you feel like you
Yeah, that makes sense because like
kind of
I'm
can?
kind of with the moves I was throwing out here in the corner. It was like, okay, I guess I'll scrap under your terms,
Yeah, it was
which just
very
didn't
much
work
his
well.
terms, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
makes
so
sense.
one thing is also that like part of this basically is that like you might be doing this because you don't have a lot of confidence in your ability to kind of like run away
Mm-hmm.
or like avoid interaction, but
Mm-hmm.
it's an extremely important part of this game as a whole, and also even more so specifically Sheik, that like because Sheik is just like this massive list of like 5,000 laws that you have to follow, and if you break one law your opponent kills you.
Yeah,
And so like you really need to be able to avoid a situation if you don't like it. And it's
right.
like extremely important because like Fox just has a big list of yeses. He just has a big list of like, is it really okay to do that? And it's like, yeah, sure, as long as you didn't do it last time. And he can just kind of deal with any situation. But Sheik isn't like that. She's a lot more like precise and kind of like sharp, where you have to play exactly to the spots she cares about.
Mm-hmm.
So just being really confident in your ability to like either like light shield on the platform, which is hard for Fox to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
or go to the top plat and find a way down. Top plat, run over here, needle, shield drop, kind of trying to find ways outside of, his terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, getting more confident with like moving away might help you not feel so like I have to fight just because he wants me to.
Right.
Okay. So, and then I don't know what this grab is. What are your thoughts on this grab?
I mean, I think it's a symptom of the same thing we saw before, where for some reason I'm expecting the fox to just stand still, and I'm doing this extremely. I mean, it's high reward, but it's high risk to
Mm-hmm.
boost grab into the corner. Like
Yeah,
it only works if the fox just is stationary. Or I guess if they approached me, maybe it would work. But
yeah, it kind of strictly works if he's just sort of sitting in place there, and it
yeah,
puts you in this horrible position. So this is just kind of like that thing I was talking about, like where you're not really gonna beat Fox by like hitting him with your really good stuff. You're gonna hit him by hitting him with anything in a good position. So the issue with doing this grab here is, think about it, even if you grab him here, you're forced to forward throw. Because he can slide off down throw. So this isn't even like a big win for you if you hit him. Whereas let's say he even spot dodges this. He just gets this whole cross the stage combo.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I think this was a moment. So you get a little bit of damage. This is good. And then... let's see, where is it? There was a spot I wanted to bring up. Right here. So you run over here, you saw that he missed the tech, and this dash attack, this is kind of cemented in my mind that you're like thinking less about your win conditions. Of like, if you're Fox in this position, you're like, oh no, like, she's gonna, run up and down smash me, or like, or get like a short hop fair on this, or something like that. You're thinking that Sheik will go for some sort of off-stage play. So by going for this dash attack, yeah, maybe if you dash attacked and hit the front and he DI'd out, you'd get him off stage. But it's still not, this isn't like a move that I can tell, like, oh, he's really just fiending for the kill,
Right.
It's kind of just like a move that, like, well, the stock just kind of keeps going. And, one thing you could implement right here, and this is sort of small, this doesn't really have to do with the rest of it, and I like these tomahawks, obviously, but instead of just the jab here, face roll is really good he'll do, like, fair, dash back, dash in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's just, like, a good mix-up to sort of add in on this.
Right, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, once again, that was a really good edge guard. And, like, yeah, look at, like, you hit him off stage at 75, this same situation probably would have worked 10% earlier.
Right.
But you're still winning. And even this is kind of like if you think about this from like yeah, this is kind of like permissible or whatever. It's not a huge deal maybe, but like because he's invincible, but like his invincibility has run out here. So this is essentially just like a snapshot. He was never invincible at all. This is just where we're at. And, like, you can, like, if you just look at it, it's like you kind of turn the situation where you're in a pretty neutral position. Like, Sheik on a platform is not necessarily, like, disadvantaged against Fox. You have the light shield, you have your escapes, you have shield drop aerials, shield drop needle grab. You have a bunch of little tricks here. And so, like, but when this happens, you kind of just put yourself in a position, like, there's no back air wall here, there's no needles on him coming to center, you just sort of are here, and then you're like, he's here, and then he's up here, and then you're like jumping and needling trying to hit this, and it's just like, it's very like chaotic, and it's very like, I guess I'll do this,
Right.
And so one thing I tell people a lot is that basically the only thing that truly matters to improving, not the only thing, but a very fundamental thing to improving, is having a plan and following it. Because if let's say you're doing these type of things and you're kind of just putting moves in spots where you didn't necessarily like really want to, you feel like you're kind of forced to based on what he is doing, there's not a lot you can say in analysis, if because all you can kind of say is, well, this doesn't really look like it's part of the plan. But if you have a plan and you just very religiously stick to the plan, then if you lose, it was either A, you're not doing the plan right, or B, the plan needs improvement. And so in situations where you feel uncomfortable, I would advise you that like a significant portion of the time you should be just disengaging. And like being like if when he jumps up here and you're like, oh, I don't really like this, so this was good, you got past him, you avoid this. Let's say you go here and he's up here and you don't really like this, you can wave dash past and go through him. You can wave dash crouch here and see what he does. You can go to ledge even if you don't really like it. I don't know how good your ledge dashes are, but like you don't have to just like, oh fine, I'll just fight and I'll just throw out the move and I don't care anymore. And it's like, that's going to put you in a position where it's difficult to even ascertain why you lost. You'll just kind of think back and there's just all these sort of chaotic situations that you're losing. And I think so. Just try to avoid doing things that aren't really, part of moving towards your win condition as quickly as possible.
Right.
So right here, obviously, you want a back air instead of the turnaround fair. Okay, this was good, or that wasn't too bad on this mix-up. I'm not a huge fan of doing this. Okay, so here's the thing. I like that you're going for the kill here, but doing the down smash here is still, it's so, okay, so it's like, if you divide it into going for the kill or not going for the kill, I'm happier that you went for the kill, but you have him in a pretty strong position right here. And so by down smashing, you're basically like no longer playing the game, like you press down smash and you're kind of stuck here for like three turns or whatever.
Right.
And so like I would much rather you just sort of, pressure with grab forward throw or more aerials and kind of watch for his roll and stuff like that than going for this, because by sort of pressuring him in this position, you're still trying to get him off stage for the early gimp, but you don't like give up your ability to act.
Okay.
And then this is another small thing where, like, this is clearly not part of, like, a game plan. This Nair. It's like, well, he's at 33. Weak Nair isn't going to do anything. But I'm kind of annoyed that I lost that stock, so I'm going to hit it. And, it's just another action that you're doing that, has bad risk reward, where you could get messed up really badly for doing this. And in your best case that it hits and he runs into it and he DIs badly, it still doesn't matter. You're not going to get anything.
Right. It doesn't lead to anything.
Okay. Got the grab. That was good. Just a missed tech chase. It happens. Let's see what happens here. So, this is like a small detail. Like, once again, this isn't necessarily like a huge problem or anything. But there's basically like a solution here already, which is when you see this, just crouch. And then, like, no matter what Fox does, you'll definitely be able to get the repunish here.
Right.
It's really tempting to dash back, I know, but the answer is just to crouch.
Okay.
Gonna try to move through it a little quicker. Okay, so at least here you're definitely going for the kill once you have him at like once you have him at like 70 or something. I can literally feel your shoulders relaxing through the game where you're like, oh, he's a 70. Okay, anyway, like, die Fox, die. But then the earlier percents, you're not really thinking about it in the same way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just trying to think of the best way to say certain things here. Because this is like a really similar position that you both started the game in and you got into the last stock, which is like he's invincible and you're in this spot on the platform where like it's not even necessarily a bad spot, but you just look like really uncomfortable here. You're like burning your double jump and you drop and then you're shielding here, and it's like his invincibility ran out like 4 seconds ago, If you're scared of Nair, you should just be crouching here probably. So... And you got this, you went for this, like, full hop needle on the plat thing again. It's like, even if you get this somehow into, like, some magical, like, needle grab, he's just going to DI off the platform. It's just, like, I would say,
not part of the plan.
I want you to, like, reduce the number of things in this matchup that you, like, allow yourself to do. So I would say, like, at low percent, I really want to see you prioritize clipping back air more than fair. There's nothing necessarily wrong with fair in some spots, but like you clearly super prioritize it over the back air, and it needs to be much more back air heavy, and also just sort of playing like more orderly in general, and not like thinking of it as a little less of a fight and more of like, it's like if you're a chef and you cook like 4 meals every day and you serve them to your, people who go to your restaurant, and then, you have a big restaurant reviewer coming in for the day, and so you decide to make all new dishes that you've never tried before for this reviewer, and it's
Right.
kind of like, wait a second, like so I think like what I want you to do is like think really hard about, okay, what are the things I want? I want Fox up to a specific amount of damage, and I think that like this back air is safe, this back air is safe, whatever. These needles are safe, this grab is like pretty solid or whatever. Have your little pool of options, and like I would rather you just like fight really hard to get those options and then not anything else, because then you have like a plan, you have a very concrete set of moves, and then your VOD analysis will instantly become 100 times easier for both you and if you get a lesson from somebody, because you'll say, okay, these are the options that I thought I was going for, but this situation that Fox created doesn't fit neatly into any of those boxes. So then you kind of have the choice of like, okay, should I have moved to a different position earlier and avoided that spot? Can one of these moves beat that option and I wasn't realizing it? Or is there like some new option that I need to include specifically to beat this option or these range of options?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because stuff like this Nair is just like, clearly it's like there's nothing to say except like, don't do the Nair, and then your response will be, well, yeah, I know, but it's kind of like, like, yeah, you don't want to do it, like that'll just it loses the game to do said Nair.
Oop.
Nice.
Intentional.
Yeah,
all
fully
chains are.
intentional. The point of the lesson. Okay, yeah, dead. I think what'll help here is I actually want to watch a Plup VOD when he played. Let's see, where did he beat Cody? Was it at Summit? He beat Cody somewhere.
I'm trying to remember. Summit might be right. Plup was playing pretty well.
Okay, I'll look that up. Okay. Another thing is that, like, in positions like this, you usually would want to go for, like, some form of, like, vertical combo. Like, unless this move is going to send off screen, you really want... like, if this move can't send Fox off the stage, then I'll find a move that if I read him correctly, I'll get another move off the stage, So a lot of times I'll see people do a mix-up. Like, a lot of Sheiks here would do, like, an up air, like a reverse up air. Like, they would face left and they'd up air here. Fox will kind of pop up here, and then you jump up and you back air, and, ooh, he's off stage. So just sort of like that intentionality of, like, well, the back air here gets %, but you're just gonna, you're just gonna reset the situation.
I think specifically for that situation where it's like a tech chase situation on a platform and you're trying to cover it with up air, I think the execution bar, at least for me, is pretty high. Like, it's hard to actually consistently hit, like, both read the tech chase and...
Well, you reacted and hit the back air.
Right, but I guess maybe we'll have to look at the situation.
Yeah, it's all it is like this, where he mistechs.
That's true.
And then you forward tilt, and you see him going over here, and you jump back air. All you had to do was dash short hop up air here.
Yeah. Okay. That's
but I'm not. What I'm not saying is like every time he techs on a platform, you should be up airing, because I'm not sure if that's even possible. But just in like spots like this, I just want you to like consider more of like, if something isn't gonna lead into a kill, what's it really doing, And I'm not. The thing is, these will always come up.
Right.
I just don't like. These will always come up, and it's not something to super worry about. But when you do hit this back air, I want you to think like, oh, I probably could have done a combo type move there.
Yeah, like up air, down air, definitely lead to something.
Yeah, down air is really, really good for like the tech chase stuff on platforms. Yeah, okay, this just happens, and then you're like, I'm stuck. Okay, good air dodge. that situation is basically like impossible to get down. So okay, and then slight miss. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Choke. Okay, good. Ooh. Not a bad attempt, but you could have just wave dash and crouched, probably, and been fine.
Can you crouch get up attack at 82%?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know Sheik's data well enough. My intuition says that I can, but... Okay, yeah, so fair. In the case where you felt like you weren't able to CC this, why not just continue waiting, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So I'm afraid that when I show you the Plup VOD, it'll probably be him breaking his own plan a lot. but there's still some things that I think we could get from it.
So I actually took lessons from Swedish back when I lived in New York for a little bit.
Oh, nice.
And he is much more like follow the plan. Like he actually said, like pretty much never go for anything but fair or bear when you're covering the platforms. That was like his own rule.
That never used like any other.
I mean, I'm sure maybe that was just his guidance to me at the time, but he was like, you know, this leads to an edgeguard situation almost every time. At the time I was naring pretty frequently.
Oh, I see. Okay, right, that makes sense.
But yeah, just as far as like playstyle is concerned, Swedish is much more like he has a game plan and he executes it well, and I feel like Plup gets away with a lot of craziness because he's so fast.
Right. Well, what I wanted to mostly look at with Plup was his desire to end the stock.
Right. Okay.
Which I think will help. But I agree with you completely. Okay, yes. The tech chase is extremely difficult to hit every single time. I do think there might be something at this percent. I don't know if I'm mistaken. I'm pretty sure at this percent. Can you maybe up tilt and then like reaction tech chase the other options? I could be wrong.
Maybe.
I think that's like a thing. That's definitely like about specific percents on tech chases. That's definitely a Spark thing to ask for. Cause I'm not. I know the general game plan really well, but I have trouble with like the exact specific percents of things. Oh, you could have fared him. Yeah, that's a small deal, but you could have definitely fared out a shield here and killed him.
Wait, as Zelda or earlier?
Yeah, right here. I'm just saying you could have you can fair out a shield.
Oh, right.
And he'd probably die.
Yeah, my Zelda is trash, so.
Okay, let me find really quick the Plup VOD that I wanted to look at. I really, it's like, I feel like it's always very difficult for me in these situations when I'm sort of trying to teach someone whose issue is that they're a little disorganized, because there are like several different directions I could kind of go talking about it. And I always want to make sure that I do a direction that will be helpful for you.
I mean, there were some of those situations we looked at, like the one where I like whiffed boost grab in the corner, and we were like, it doesn't lead to, even if it hits, it doesn't lead to anything. That was definitely eye-opening.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so let's just see what happens here, and I just want to kind of go into it. So, sort of an initial thing is like, look at the opening. So the way he opens, and I agree with this, is just to get down to the ground, take center stage immediately here. And then he's not immediately going for an option that will, he's not allowing Cody to take control of the pace immediately. He's quite, like, literally just going for, like, the short hop backwards back air over and over. And then he kind of just gets impatient and goes for this hit here, and he kind of ends up in a scramble, and obviously that doesn't work out for him, and he probably should have kept doing the back air over and over, sticking to the plan. So we can see here how Plup does not stick to the plan and gets bodied. Maybe I shouldn't watch this guy, dude. He's just doing a bunch of stuff. So I think this is an interesting choice here. Where like this nair would be bad if he wanted it in neutral, but because he's just kind of he was kind of in a bad spot, it sort of made sense.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Okay. I really, when I watched this set the first time, I think I remember it differently. Because he's definitely playing it, like, extremely disordered. And I think not in a way I would super love to see. But I mostly wanted to go over just the fact that he wants the kill really badly. Because it always seems like someone said first game was kind of shaky. Okay, I'll just for the sake of time, I will go forward a little bit. Okay. Maybe go to the stadium game. Pretty sure that's the last one. Wow, so he just gets hit immediately when it starts again. I think this is actually a pretty good example of, like, where he's not just, like, kind of running away here, but he is avoiding the unfavorable interactions with this roll. Like, he's definitely uncomfortable in this spot, and he's sort of trying to avoid the interaction until he gets the spot he wants, and then he goes for this. Let's see what he does off of the combo.
A good example, though, of why, I don't know. I find it hard to watch Plup videos for guidance. Is he like dash attacked at, like, what percent? At, like, 30?
Okay, I was objectively wrong about this set. I completely remembered it.
It's fine.
I completely remembered it wrong.
Maybe he knows something we don't.
No, I mean, ultimately, he's just a really good player, so he's able to bend the rules. It's kind of like watching Mango, but yeah, sometimes when I watch Mango, also I'm like, hey, this is great for copying, and then other times I'm looking and I'm like, okay, this does not fit the point I wanted to express quite as well as I had hoped. Okay, let me think. Well, okay, that was a slight waste of time, but I'll just check out your second VOD and let's forget about trying to look at Blorp and completely misreading what was happening during the set. Or at least there's not enough going on that I want to talk about that that the VOD is, worth the time investment right now, when we're kind of strapped for time.
Maybe the Swedish Armada when he goes Fox. I think that's on Pokemon, maybe.
See, the thing is, there's like a million matches I've seen of Sheik following the plan perfectly, but none of them are on YouTube. They're all just slippy files of, like, Duck or Spark playing against Foxes. Okay. I actually like the introduction, or, like, the start a lot more to this game. Although I'm not a huge fan of, like, starting with the needles on the platform. I think
if I'm gonna shield drop through, I should just do it.
Like, the fact that you exactly. The fact that you kind of, like, avoid this situation, even though he Phantom Shines, and then you get this up tilt on, like, well, I don't like this one, and then he's like, okay, I'll come over here, and then you're like, oh, but I do like this one, and you get this up tilt. That's, like, a significantly better way to, start a situation. Okay, so far this game is already looking significantly better, which is a good sign. That it's not just every game that you get stuck in that position. It's just a habit sometimes. Okay, that's good. Your edge guarding also definitely is not super strong, it looks like. Yeah, at least during this game. And the last game, you got, like, that one good edge guard, but I don't know, it's just so much of this matchup is based on your ability to actually take Fox's stocks quickly. And, whether you're getting the early throw off or you're comboing to, like, 70 and then you're fairing off into an edge guard, eventually both of those situations will kind of collapse into like a similar edge guard. And your proportion of hitting those is
it's pretty poor.
Like, I was going to say that the proportion that you hit those is, like, your win rate is very dependent on that type of thing.
Right.
So,
that makes sense.
Okay, so let me give you sort of the way I actually fully see this matchup right now. So, Fox has a big advantage. I think that over the last few years, that's become pretty clear that Sheik has the ability to deal with anything Fox does. Sheik has the ability to deal with it. But when you start taking into consideration all the options Fox has and how well they all kind of chaotically lead into, I got a drill, I know I got a shine, and now I got my grab, and things are going really badly for Sheik. Whereas Sheik kind of has to she has to get the grab combo. It's a lot more difficult to capitalize on these chaotic situations.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the time, this matchup sort of comes down to Sheik has a very specific way to win, and Fox is trying to kind of break her out of that by doing a bunch of weird stuff and kind of hoping to clip her. And so, I think that basically you're never going to be in a position, no matter how good you get with Sheik, where you are, truly comfortable in this matchup, because it is a losing matchup. To the extent of my knowledge, this is definitely a losing matchup for Sheik at this point. And so you should never be well, it feels very uncomfortable for me, and I'm sure it feels comfortable for these pro players, So
Sure.
What am I doing wrong? And it's never like that. And a lot of times I think somebody like Plup, he very, kind of publicly doesn't really like the Fox matchup, at all. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's true for all the Sheiks, even the Sheiks who love it. It's just because, they like the insane challenge of a Fox player a tenth as good as them taking games, Right. And so, a lot of the ways that you win losing matchups are through, it's 50% super, super, super maxing out your win conditions, and then 50% dirty tricks.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of things that you can do in this matchup to make Fox's life harder. And if you think about them really hard, you'll be but he could probably do this, or what if he aimed his down air a little better, or what if he was frame perfect on blah, blah, blah. And it's yeah, if he did everything right, you lose. But even the best player in the world will never do everything right. If you watch tournament VODs of Zane and Mango, they're messing up all the time. They're making bad decisions all the time. So, on a theoretical level, you do lose this matchup. And so it's better to not think too hard about that specifically, and think harder about, okay, how much of the time can I maybe SDI out of a drill? Or how much of the time can I get a CC grab on a predictable nair or something like that? And then, so sort of you have your list of kind of dirty tricks where you're well, this doesn't really beat everything Fox does, but he's kind of using, these options, and most Foxes kind of use these options. And if I guess right, and I kind of get my sneaky little slippery, it's every Sheik goes for back air grab at low percent, and it's does back air grab work? It's no. Of course it doesn't work. Fox has a shine, but how often does it work? How often does it actually succeed in the game? And a lot of times that's more important in losing matchups than anything else.
Right.
It's kind of like Fox up throw up airing Marth. It's well, any up air I do, he can SDI it. And it's yeah, so just kind of put one there and hope he doesn't, that's kind of all you can do in some spots. And so I think you have to be very cutthroat in losing matchups like this, because your character will not win for you. If that makes, it's not a lot of the matchups where, if you're playing a Peach, you can kind of be ignorant, you can kind of not know a lot, you can kind of do a lot of stuff wrong, and you're oh, it's kind of working, and so this matchup is not one of those, and and so yeah, okay, and so yeah, just sort of that is my general explanation of the matchup is get really good at not letting Fox have his way. And get really good at making the kills happen, kind of no matter how they happen. Okay. And a lot of times you have a significantly higher chance of making those kills happen if he's off stage.
Mm-hmm.
And also, not down smashing as much, more like when it's not guaranteed. You'd rather do like a type of pressure type thing. Okay. But like that is like the general framework is like you'll never be comfortable. There's no way to be comfortable in this matchup. And there's no way to like a lot of people come to me, they're like, oh, I keep getting reversaled out of, tech in place. And it's like, like what do you want me to do about it? Like, Fox's tech in place is annoying. The ambiguous DI tech in place is really annoying. And, some people beat it with like a pivot grab and stuff like that, or like the wave dash method. Everybody has their own way to deal with it. Yeah. But like, ultimately, you picked a character where... if you can't react to the tech chase at low percents, you're not gonna get as many combos. And you can kind of get around it. You can kind of get around it with good needles and back airs. You get them to 30, suddenly the reversal chances go down a lot. So there are ways to play around it, and you kind of have to decide based on your own strengths and weaknesses, kind of like which way you want to play the matchup. But like, somebody who's really good at getting CC grabs is going to go for CC grab more often, Somebody who's really good at getting gimps out of back throw is going to go for back throw more often. But like, ultimately what matters is like, what is effective for you and how are you going to cheese the win off this Fox?
Okay.
So like, I just sort of want to like hammer that home is like, this is a matchup that you are probably going to win by cheesing. The thing is, it's not necessarily like cheesing. It's kind of that anything you do that's effective is inherently kind of cheesy because he does have some option he could do to beat it at any point. And so like think about like Pikachu or something. Pikachu has a whole bunch of moves, but none of them do anything. So Pikachu just sits there grabbing and back throwing over and over because that's all Pikachu has. And it's like, you can say it's cheesy, but ultimately it's just the character maxing out the potential of what they have against, massively losing matchups like Spaceys.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's just continue the analysis a little bit, but so now you kind of have, like, this is what I've kind of laid out as, like, I feel like your general weaknesses are, which is, like, being a little chaotic, not really sticking to the plan enough, and then, like, not really being confident enough in the edge guards, like, and actually finishing the stocks.
Right.
And then also just the idea that you will probably never feel comfortable here in this matchup. And, it stinks to say it just because there's this game is so interesting and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, if Fox techs away here and you are not able to punish it, this should basically be 3 stocks to 2. Like, if you were really good, this should be 3 stocks to 2, like, maybe half the time or more. And so, like, if the odds from this position that you take the stock are like almost nothing, and the odds that like he gets a spot dodge shine or like you miss the tech chase and he shields it and then does something to you afterward are like higher than 0, the odds don't stack up well. Like you will you will feel like this horrible feeling of like hopelessness, and it's because like you're rolling a die over and over, and if it's 1 through 5, he wins, and if it's a 6, you win if you roll another 6, Right. And it's like, uh-oh, like, this isn't looking good, like, and it's like, dude, I just feel like this game is hopeless, and it's like, well, yeah, that is a hopeless game to play. And there are, like, movements and stuff that you could be doing a lot better, like, okay, there was a crouch. I'm glad you crouched there. I think you could benefit from kind of changing position more. Like, a lot of times, like, in this... So, like, let's say I'm the Fox here, and I've played you during this set, and you're here. What do I think you're going to do from here based on everything else? I didn't even need to see ahead. Like, yeah, I already saw ahead. But I know for a fact... You will, in the next quarter second to half second, be coming down with an aerial from this platform.
Okay.
just from watching everything else. And that's
Right.
just like the fox already knows this because he's like, well, these are the positions. Eventually, he's gonna fight out of this position, and like that general feeling of the position is presented to you and then you play it is something you mentally want to avoid.
Okay.
And if he forces a position and you go, nah, I don't want to play it, and then he still hits you, that's when you go into the VOD analysis, you know?
Okay.
And you go, okay, like, I really didn't want to play that position. Because a lot of times a position will start before you realize it starts. You know, people are like, I really hate this position, and I feel like it's unavoidable. And it's like, no, a lot of times it's unavoidable once a previous position was reached, you know?
Right. Right.
And so by looking at the analysis, you go, aha, it's actually the previous position that I want to avoid here. And then you can put a little bit more effort into avoiding it. Oh, there was the dash back, dash in grab. That was good. Okay, got this.
Yeah, I was doing this a lot.
Yeah, that needle charge
think-
is like big no.
Yeah. Well, it only covers like if they just side B or something at the right height or up B. But I guess when they recover high, I should just be like turn around bearing.
Well, you
or
should
grab ledge.
right here. You should just be getting over to the edge and you know probably facing away from the edge. And it's like you can grab edge or whatever. And like yeah, at this point he still has a chance that he could like side B here or whatever.
Right.
And so that's why I would probably stay on stage and I'd probably just go to this position. But like by doing this it's not going to cover anything.
Oh God.
I didn't see that, don't worry. we all do that. Good SDI. See, and the thing is, so this fair from platform worked, and normally I would say that I would like not have a complaint on this fair, but it's the fact that like you never do anything else there that's a little upsetting.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, that was good. See, but right here, I would much rather you be back throwing him off. Or some form of like...
Yeah.
The killing intent is just low. Just in general. So... This is you know, we're going over a bunch of little things now, but like this is kind of like you can kind of go for this, I guess, if it's like your first action on invincibility, but if it's your second, like your invincibility is gonna run out when you're without a double jump directly above Fox, and it's kind of like, oh no. A lot of times, you know, if you miss your first attempt, or like, you know, you were looking for a read right here, you want to end your invincibility in the best position you can be, you know? And obviously, if you can hit your opponent, that's a better position than not hitting them. But if you're not going to hit them, you want to kind of end in a good position. If you're like, I don't think I can kind of get him. It's better than just going for, you know, a gamble.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, I hate that. Slide off. Oh, he slides off again. Standing, you gotta be careful with standing needle. It's just bad in general. I would actually say never edgeguard with it.
Okay.
Like you'd be better off if you never used it again. It wouldn't hurt you. Like yeah, there's certain spots where it can kill, but most of the time that happens. Like with that, you know, and he'll just go to ledge there or whatever. I actually had an argument with Face Roll like 4 years ago or something where. Like a Falco or a Fox was up being here, and I was like, and he never standing needles, and I'm like, dude, just standing needle there, and he's like, it doesn't work ever. And then I realized like upon watching all the VODs that it just literally doesn't work ever. And I was like, oh, I see. Okay, so this was good. Like instead of doing like the down smash here, you're definitely like hunting for like the pressure, but then you didn't respect his ledge dash enough, so you die. How's it? Yeah, there's just this really. So okay, so in conclusion, because we're at an hour, um, so I think part of the reason why I've been a little confused during the whole analysis, or I might seem a little uncertain of certain things, a big part of that is because your play is really, really all over the place. So like sometimes you're doing things and I'm like, wow, that was really good. And then you'll immediately do something that's just like not that has like it's like from a completely different universe than the previous thought, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really hard to really pinpoint the issues because you'll do something wrong 4 times and then do it right 3 times in a row or something. And I'm like, huh. And so it's kind of hard to pick out and say like, oh, you should be playing at like these different ranges and stuff like that. Like there are more things that I could be talking about in terms of your neutral and your move choice and stuff like that. But I think until you kind of fix the fundamental issue of like the organization and playing according to a plan, and you can start the plan really simple. You can start the plan and say like literally at 0, all I'm gonna do is wall back air and grab and just do that, like going on ranked and do it. And then every time you get hit for it, go back and watch the VOD, and then every time you get hit for it, say like, what could I have done in that spot differently? And literally just build a plan from, the ground up. Right. And a lot of times that sort of like simplicity and like breaking it down will kind of bring your play together a little bit more, and it'll be easier to pinpoint like the real issues.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But any closing thoughts? I hope this was a useful lesson for you.
No, this is definitely helpful. Yeah, one of the reasons I wanted to get a lesson from you is I feel like you take a bit more of a like high level approach versus like Spark. We talk more about like micro interactions. So this has been really helpful.
Okay, cool. Well, if you're trying this out or whatever and you get confused or you have any extra questions, don't hesitate to hit me up on Discord. Like, I might not respond instantly, but I'm usually around and I'll try to, mostly because I just kind of want, like, I feel like despite me doing my best and you sounding really confident that there's like a clear direction forward, there's totally like a 30% chance that you start doing it and you're like, dude, what did he even talk about? Like, this makes no sense. And so if that happens, just come to me on Discord and we'll figure out like a clearer plan forward. But hopefully this works out.
I have a few things that I think are super actionable. Like obviously the plan part, I think the fighting, like not scrapping when you're just like fighting on Fox's terms is something that I have noticed, but I haven't really like consciously tried to stop doing it. So that is definitely easy to implement. And obviously edge guarding is like an easy thing to just kind of grind. So I have some easy actionable stuff to work on, at least in the near future.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so let me know how that goes, and I'll send you my Venmo stuff.
Sweet.
Okay, sounds awesome. Good. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.